What's up, Wolverines? I'm Michael Valdez.
And I'm Anthony Farrell, and welcome to another edition of WBLN.
A tradition at Belen Jesuit is keeping the Belen alum that live abroad informed. The Belen Alumni Association has been organizing tours around the United States. Jonathan Barturin has more.
After a year hiatus, Father Willie will be joined by Alumni Association Executive Director Carlos Bravo and Belen Jesuit Executive Director of Advancement and Alumni Relations Phil Fernandez on a tour to select cities. The goal, to connect with alumni from around the country and re-engage them by informing them about all the great things happening on campus.
So the Alumni Tour started back when Father Duque, which was the original alumni director, would go to different cities. So when Belen came from Cuba and the alumni were all over, Father Duque basically got the alumni association together. And one of the things that he did, and he made it a point, was to go visit alumni that were not in Miami, which were in several places. So he would go to New York, which was one of the main hubs, Puerto Rico, and some places in Florida, in the state. So that's where that started, basically, so he can stay connected with alumni, Belen alumni that just have recently left Cuba to restart their lives here in the United States. And actually, it was something very, very fruitful and important because it maintained the connections with our alumni, but just it helped out in other areas as well, as far as establishing and networking and so on. So the credit goes to Father Duque for doing that.
Between Carlos Bravo and I, we kind of work together to organize the alumni that are in the area, book venues. We do a presentation to keep the alumni updated on what exactly it is that the school is up to, with the hopes of getting them engaged, and most importantly, making sure that the alumni in the area know who else lives in that area, so that more than anything, the younger alumni can connect with the older alumni and maybe get internship opportunities, job opportunities, advice, mentorship, that kind of thing. Well, the overall goal is to keep our alumni engaged with each other and with the school, really. It's that. Keep Belen on their radar, because, if you live in Los Angeles or Houston or New York or Atlanta, just to name a few, there's no reason necessarily that Belen's going to be on your radar. So we want to make sure that we keep it on their radar.
For WBLN, I'm Jonathan Barturin.
Service animals play a valuable role in supporting individuals in need. Danny Diaz sits down with Mr. Jordan on how he and his dog Napa serve our community. The Great Dane is a majestic dog breed that one would not typically expect to be so impactful. Dr. Jordan's very own Napa is a beautiful Great Dane that also so happens to be a service dog. He was able to tell us more about the work they do and the people they impact.
So it's cool with Great Danes. They're polar opposite extremes. So you have dogs that can have personalities all over the place. Great Danes are known for having either one of the two extreme personalities. Either they're very, very loving and gentle giants and great dogs as far as they don't care about anybody. They just let everybody in, or they're super, super protective and aggressive. They're one or the other. So we ended up getting Napa completely on impulse. We walked into a pet store, we saw her, and I was like, all right, fine. That was the worst mistake I could have ever done. I just started playing with her. My wife and I were like, all right, that's it. We're getting her. And we ended up getting her. But it was always because I always wanted a Great Dane. I think that there's a level of it that you can really kind of find God in all things. And as corny and cheesy as it sounds, it's kind of the truth, right? If you look at one of my favorite gospel passages ever is when they say, "But Master, when did we see you hungry and gave you food, or see you thirsty and gave you, And he says, "Whatever you did for the least of my brothers, you did for me." So I always that gospel always resonated with me, because it's how am I going to go feed the hungry? How am I going to go help the sick? Well, feeding the hungry is easy. You just do a food drive, or you go to a soup kitchen, or someone's thirsty. Hey, bro, here you go. There's small little things you can do, right? What Napa does, and what I love about dogs, is that dogs just have this innate sense of just loving and caring for people, And when you see what Napa does, when she walks into a psych ward, for example, we walked in one time, and there was a girl that was, all the people there had major anxiety and major psychological issues, which Napa again is trained to be around these kinds of people and give them love and everything. So she walked into the room, and I'll never forget, she just stood right at the door and her tail was wagging, but she's like where do I start? Like, everyone has something here. So we walked around and she stopped in front of this one girl. And so she stopped in front of the girl. She and I started talking. She started petting Napa. And then I'll never forget, she extended her arm to pet part of Napa's back, and she had cuts all on her arm here. And it was one of those moments when I thought to myself, I'm like, how in the world did Napa know, like, this is the girl in a whole room of people that needed her? Okay, you kind of need me the most, first off. Secondly, like, if you were to see that at a party, or you were to see that just speaking to someone, there's already an innate sense of judgment about that person. And when I sat with her for 10 minutes, speaking with her, knowing her story, seeing how she was, asking how she was doing, she was a regular person that was going through stuff, and she had difficulties, and yes, she was sick and getting help. But if anyone had seen her outside of that setting, they would have already judged her and written her off, or said, I don't want to be around that. And it's not only a setting like that, but it's so many other ones when you see kids that have these sensory issues, the kids that have cancer, the students that are overly stressed. Like, everyone has a story, and sometimes we don't take a second to actually get to know what that story is. We immediately judge them. Dogs don't judge. They sense you, you know? And Napa's kind of taken me to people that I probably wouldn't have gone to, and probably wouldn't have spoken with, or probably wouldn't have tried to get to know them better. And it's important because, in a sense, like, I kind of see God in that work. I do see this non-judgmental love of another person, and all they want to do is just see them feel better. And it's cool to see Napa when she's with someone that doesn't feel well or isn't doing well, and the second that they start to do better, she just gets up and moves. And, like, she just knows. She's like, all right, you're good now. Let me go to someone else that needs me. So in a sense, the importance of the work, I don't see it as so important. I just see it as, it sounds, again, really corny, but, like, why wouldn't we do that? Like, why wouldn't we just look at a person and just say, there's more to their story? What is it? Why wouldn't we just look at someone and say, how can I help you? Why wouldn't we go to someone and say, let me play around with you? You need a break? Let me help you with that break. Let me talk to you.
We were also able to speak with Mrs. Gutierrez, who gave us an inside point of view on the benefits of having Napa around on campus during the holiday season.
Well, I think it's great to have a service dog on campus because it's another way to connect with the students, and she's a very friendly, warm, non-threatening presence. She doesn't talk back to the students. She doesn't demand anything of the students, so it's just like an unconditional way to feel better, pet the dog, get some, happy interaction with an animal. And a lot of people really respond so well to the dogs and to the dogs in that capacity, and she's very well trained. So she knows when someone's stressed or when someone's anxious or having a hard time, and she'll go up to that student or to that faculty member and sit next to them, and then just the act of petting the dog or interacting with the dog immediately starts to reduce your stress and your anxiety. So it's great, and it's great every time she comes to visit. The kids in Christmas Village, and I saw it when she came for the trunk or treat day as well. The kids in Christmas Village really respond to her. Their face lights up. It's something so different. They're not used to interacting sometimes with animals or pets, and they're not used to interacting sometimes with dogs as large as Napa. So it's the novelty of it, and she's so friendly, and they just love to be able to pet her and interact with her, and sometimes do some tricks that Dr. Jordan has taught her to do. It makes them laugh. It lights up their faces. So it's really nice. It brings a very nice, joyful presence to the Wolverine Village.
For WBLN, I'm Anthony Ferrero.
And I am Daniel Diaz.
President Biden's re-election campaign says it raised more than $97 million in the fourth quarter. The campaign also says that it entered the election year with $117 million on hand. According to the campaign, that is the most for any Democratic candidate at this point in the cycle. The vast majority of the donations in the fourth quarter were under $200, and the average was about $42. As far as the Republican candidates go, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's campaign says it raised $24 million in the fourth quarter. Neither former President Trump nor Florida Governor Ron DeSantis have yet to release their fourth quarter fundraising figures. Former President Donald Trump won the Iowa caucuses Monday by a historical margin. Tyler James is here in studio with a look at the results.
Even the coldest caucus of all time couldn't freeze the love Iowa Republicans have for former President Donald Trump. Trump claimed the landslide victory, setting his sight on the general election. He encouraged his opponents to get out of the race and on board with him. Trump topped 50% of the votes in Iowa, cementing his position as the frontrunner. But the margin between second and third place was tight. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is currently beating former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley by a small margin. As the primary season kicks off, the stakes couldn't be higher, even if the temperatures are at an all-time low.
What's up, Wolverines? I'm Andres Pinto, and here are your sports for today. Our Wolverines lost against Miami High 50-60. Ignacio Falla led the team with 14 points, with Vincent Lima and Orlando Roche both scoring 10. This weekend, they also suffered a loss against Plantation, with the score being 54-48, and losing against Gateway 62-57. We look forward to the team's next upcoming away game against Hialeah Educational Academy. The Belen soccer team matched up against Palmetto yesterday, winning 2-0, and will face Terra this Wednesday at home at 6 p.m. The Belen lacrosse team will be hosting tryouts from January 22nd to the 24th at the De La Cruz Stadium at 5:30 p.m. If you have any questions, then make sure to contact Coach Belando. Now on to the pros. Our Miami Dolphins lost in the AFC wildcard against the Kansas City Chiefs 26-7. This loss leaves fans of the team questioning the future at the quarterback position as we enter the offseason in a heartbreaking fashion. Yesterday, the Miami Heat defeated the Nets in an overtime thriller. Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero led the way to the win, with Butler scoring 31 and Hero scoring 29. The Heat play against the Scotty Barnes-led Toronto Raptors tomorrow in Toronto at 7:30. The Detroit Lions finally ended their 32-year playoff win drought against the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday night. They now move on to the AFC divisional round against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Following the wildcard loss against Tampa Bay, the Eagles are heading into the offseason with a major question at the center position. Six-time All-Pro Jason Kelce announced this morning that he would officially be retiring. Kelce finished his career as one of the best at his position. Caleb Williams announced yesterday on his social media that he will be foregoing another year at USC and instead will enter the NFL draft. The prospect looks to be a guaranteed number one pick and future franchise quarterback, given his skills and being compared to greats such as Patrick Mahomes. That's all for sports. Now back to the guys at the desk.
Thanks, Pinto. That's all your news for today. And remember to stay safe
And stay golden, Wolverines.